as visionary, I've got the vision. I know where the company wants to go. I have the ideas of, what we want to do and how we're going to get there, and the clients we need, and the products we want to do, and all that sort of stuff. But then, it's going beyond those ideas, and like where the rubber hits the road. And it's like, how is this actually going to get done? Who are we going to put in place? What are the systems and processes that are going to have it done?
This is Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgensen.
Welcome out to Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio. I am your host, Tyler Jorgensen, and today we have a good friend of mine, someone who I have shared some amazing life experiences with, Tom Rauen of 1-800 T-shirts, formerly Envision Tees, the man behind some of the coolest PR stunts I've ever seen, and a good friend. So welcome out to the show, Tom.
Hey, glad to be here.
All right, Tom, you are one of those guys that I've known for a while and has always, you're like a kindred spirit because you're willing to do cool things and try, even if it seems way out of the box. But let's dial it way back. When was the moment that you first realized that you were an entrepreneur?
I would say like back in grade school, it was somewhere between buying and selling baseball cards and going to card shows. And then my mom was an entrepreneur and with a couple different businesses, and she had an account with Ty Warner, which was Beanie Babies. And so we were selling. So I was helping her out. I saw this craze kind of coming along, and we started selling Beanie Babies on these online forums, and then set up an eBay account back in, it was like the late 90s. And I mean, we were one of the first people on eBay, and, we were making thousands of dollars. I mean, I had the whole setup in the living room of shipping out, waiting checks to come in. Checks were coming in. We're shipping out Beanie Babies all over the country. And I think that was like, okay, I kind of have this entrepreneur business mindset as well.
I love the people that remember eBay before PayPal existed, before people realized like PayPal actually solved a huge problem. And now it's just normal. And now PayPal's like, oh, what do you mean PayPal? We use Venmo or Cash App or all these other things. That's awesome. And did you get stuck with any bad investments in your Beanie Baby days, or were you just a great seller of it all?
No, I mean, we still have a collection. But it was like we saw it going down. And then, the thing was, it was a low thing. Our cost was, I think we were buying them at $2 and regular retail was $5. So even though like after the fat, like everything kind of faded, it was still like a nice toy that parents would buy for their kids for $5. Right. So like the value was always there no matter what.
Yeah. If you're buying at cost, you're in a good place. If you were buying $5 Beanie Babies at $10, you're in a rough spot, right? And that's a good lesson in all business, right? Make sure you're buying. Profits are made at the purchase a lot of times. So you are not a single track entrepreneur, right? You do a lot of different things. Give us the short list of some of the things you're currently working on, or at least involved in.
Yeah, so we got a t-shirt business, Dimensional Brewing Company, microbrewery here in Dubuque, Iowa. Midwest luxury limos, private coach service, do some coaching, consulting, real estate, commercial real estate, investing in, triple net lease properties to like McDonald's, Starbucks, Arby's, just got a Sonic and an Applebee's under contract. So that's kind of fun. And yeah, that pretty much rounds it out. A few other investments.
That's a lot. Well. Yeah. You say it like, well, that's it. That's all I'm doing, but that's a lot. So you've got a lot of different things going on. The main thing that you do is 1-800 T-shirts, and you're known for your really out of the box promotional strategies. Share with us some of the like things that you've done that have helped you to promote your company.
I guess the key formula is like, I love to have fun, and I know the customers want, something that's fun. And so I always look at ways I can stand out and do things differently. So, traditionally when I got in business, people were like, oh, you need to put an ad on the radio, or you need to put something in the yellow pages. And I was like, no, like I want to do stuff different than what everybody else is doing. So I always just look at what everyone else is doing and saying, all right, how can we do this differently? And I also like big things. So anytime we're driving or we go somewhere and like, it's like the world's biggest ball of twine, or like the world's biggest belt buckle in Fort Texas at Billy Bob's. So I always like the big things. So, we've got our mascot here at 100 T-shirts is a cow. So we've got a 33-foot tall inflatable cow that we put out in front of the building that gets attention. It creates memorable, people want to take a picture with it, share it on social media, stuff like that. Always look at big things, like what's going to gain attention and like what's going to be sticky and shareable. The other one, notably, is the Guinness World Record for wearing the most T-shirts at one time. I put on 247 T-shirts at once. So, just doing stuff different and outside the box of everyone else.
And that one is so on brand too, right? Like, I mean, obviously the T-shirts, and you guys make T-shirts and everything else in that industry. But that story is not just, I put on 247 shirts, right? It was a pretty intense thing where like it was life threatening even at one point. You've said that people have called to ask you advice on how to do it, and your advice usually don't, right? I feel like there's a lot of parallels to how you market to how you run the business as well. In entrepreneurship, what's one of the major obstacles or challenges that you faced, and how'd you overcome it?
I think the biggest one is probably team culture and just personality types within the business. So, up until just a couple of years ago, I didn't really know a whole lot about this, of, an Enneagram and taking DISC assessment and just like all these other personality profiles and how they sync up and how they work, either with each other or against each other in your business, and how that can affect the culture and stuff like that. So, and there's also, like the 5 love languages of business and appreciation in the business. So once I started to learn that, it really helped to make sense of like, oh, wow, this is why that didn't work out so well, or this is why we had some turnover in this department or in this kind of phase or time in our business. And, once I learned that, like a lot of things started to click, and now we proactively focus on that to make sure we're getting the right people in the right seats, and the personality types and everything else are going to fit together.
When you think about that and what you've learned from it, what's your advice to someone who's maybe a little farther behind you in their entrepreneurial journey that's just starting to build a team?
Learn more about it. It was like, it was so crazy. Like I thought, I was in business for 10 years before I even knew anything about this. And it was just like, oh my gosh. So, I think just asking other entrepreneurs and saying like, what have you dealt with on culture, and why is it affecting your business, and personality types when it comes to hiring, and, who to hire in what spot and how that fits together. So I think, being proactive and knowing that ahead of time really helps save a lot of time and headache and money as well.
Yeah, it is amazing how many times, well, one, I think most entrepreneurs enter entrepreneurship and business ownership substantially underprepared. But you think they're underprepared in understanding finance, or underprepared in understanding marketing. But it's amazing how much of it comes down to team and leadership. And you can build an amazing idea or an amazing business, but if the team that's running it isn't running well, a lot of times that business won't take life. And so that's refreshing to hear. We don't get that a lot on the show, people talking about really focusing on team and culture and employee development and team development. I think that's really neat. So you, with 1-800 T-shirts, you guys are not a small little like corner out of your garage T-shirt printing company. What are some of the big goals you guys have for 1-800 T-shirts coming up?
So we've always had this goal. We made the Inc. 5000 list 3 years in a row. And from a growth standpoint, it was always like, let's keep making the Inc. 5000 lists and hitting those growth benchmarks. And now, like, we've changed that focus. Like, we still want to do that, but our focus now is let's land on best places to work. So whatever workplace, best workplaces awards there is, I know Inc. has one, a couple other big notable places have those. Like, if we can win those awards, the revenue and the other growth and everything is going to just happen as a byproduct. So again, going back to that culture and team and everything else, like, I know the only thing that's inhibiting us from growing faster and bigger is having the perfect team and a great workplace for everyone to be.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I like that shift from just numbers growth to really focusing on the quality of the company. It's exactly what you were just talking about. Now, you are an ultra runner. I think that's the right term, right? You run far often. What parallels are there to running and long distance and endurance running to being an entrepreneur?
There's a ridiculous amount of parallels. So, when I'm running 100 miles, there's a lot of times where I want to quit. I'm overcoming a lot of mental barriers where I run into, whether it's just mental or physical obstacles or even emotionally. And when you hit those breaking points, you push past them, that you realize, what you're capable of doing. And you have that same stuff in business. So I think it's built tenacity, and it's just built up a lot of, things to overcome. So when I'm dealing with difficult situations at work or, during the pandemic and things like that, I'm like, well, this isn't that bad in comparison to other stuff I've dealt with. And so it's easy for me to kind of just like shift and be like, you know what, we can make this happen. I've gone through worse, or I've been through something like this before. And so I just put things in perspective a little bit easier. And I think it's just that tenacity that you build up.
Yeah, absolutely. Years ago, I did a blog post on running and like some of the parallels that I had, because back when I was 60 pounds lighter, I was a runner. And it is fascinating how many parallels there are, because anything that is hard, right, we take lessons from, and there's usually parallels to other things that we do in our life that are hard. So you gave us the list, right, with 1-800 t-shirts, with Dimension Brewery. How do you juggle all of that? You're clearly not running 40 hours a week of the day-to-day of each of those things. How do you divide your time as between the things that you do and the things that you lead?
Most of them, we've got really good teams in place. And again, going back to like I couldn't do it without anyone on the team. So it's having really good teams in place. At the core of it, I'm the visionary. I have the vision. I put that together. I get these ideas and then give that to the team to run with. Sometimes they're like, no, there's no way we're doing that. But sometimes they're like, yeah, but we got to dial it back a little bit, whatever it is. Because typically my ideas are very outlandish, kind of over the top. So we find that happy medium. But really just like most of my time is focused on vision on the day-to-day stuff. And the other stuff, we just have really good teams and everyone in place, making it happen. And, I'm just helping out where I can.
Yeah, I love that. I think the only way you can really run more than one thing is to really not run more than one thing, right? You're putting other people in charge of running those. And I talk to some entrepreneurs and basically say like, hey, this is your time to be basically a board member or chairman of the board. And then there's some companies you're going to be the CEO, and then there's some companies you might be the general manager, but it's hard to wear that same role in more than one spot if it's an operator role. And you mentioned the visionary. What's the difference between a visionary and an operator?
So the operator is, actually getting the work done. So, as visionary, I've got the vision. I know where the company wants to go. I have the ideas of, what we want to do and how we're going to get there, and the clients we need and the products we want to do and all that sort of stuff. But then, it's going beyond those ideas and like where the rubber hits the road. And it's like, how is this actually going to get done? Who are we going to put in place? What are the systems and processes that are going to have it done? Now, that's not saying that I'm not like doing any of that. I do a lot of that, but that's not my strong suit. So, as I started out, I didn't even realize that either. We're building over the first 5-10 years. And it's like there was always some sticking points where it was like, man, why are we doing this, over and over again? Or, well, we didn't have a system in place, or we didn't have the processes kind of refined down. And then, I learned about the, visionary and an operator and everything else. I'm like, crap, I'm totally not an operator. I can limp through it, but I just can't do it effectively as a really good operator can. So it's like knowing that role and being able to hire to fill that role. That's where you get the rocket fuel, and you can really go far with that.
I think one of the biggest challenges that I see in businesses, especially small businesses or businesses that have a small leadership team is visionaries in the role of operator. And especially if there's two visionaries in a business and one of them's trying to operate as the operator, that is like a time bomb. Because the person's not doing what they really want to do. They just are doing it because they feel they have to. And so if there's not a time, hey, here's how we're gonna get you through moving from this to that stage, because that we all may have to wear that role while we get something started, and that's fine. But it's really near impossible to stay in that long term and still have joy and satisfaction in the job that you're doing. And that's something I think is really fascinating for entrepreneurs. Like, how do you avoid burnout?
For me, it's just, finding where it brings me joy. Traveling is one of them, spend time with my family. Running is, a huge kind of stress reliever. So, it's just like finding those things. And then even within the business, there's hard days, there's stuff that you don't enjoy doing, but it's finding the stuff that really charges you up, that really fills your cup and brings you that joy that you want. So it's finding more of that in the business and delegating off or trying to minimize some of the things that are causing stress or just like not fun. I think a lot of times, like it took a while as we grew, but it was like firing bad customers. You know what I mean? So like, it was like customers that, are just a pain in our butts, and not just like following the rules the way that like we want to do business. Like it just made doing business with them difficult. And, you hate to do it, but it's like, if this isn't a good fit, it's not helping us out. It's not making our life easy, and it's not making theirs easy as well. So that's when you just have to like move on and find better fitting customers that are going to bring you joy and, not be difficult. And I remember, we had some customers that literally were like cussing out a sales rep over something. It was like, these are just t-shirts. It's not, we take it very seriously, but at the end of the day, there's a lot more pressing things going on in the world besides a t-shirt.
Right.
And that someone doesn't have to be yelling, and everything at, one of our sales reps. So it's like, go yell somewhere else. We don't need that here. We just want to work with people that, we want to be around and hang around, and people that share the same core values and stuff as we do as well.
Yeah. The idea of firing a customer took me a long time to understand. And I think the simple truth of it is that one customer can take up the energy of replacing that like 10 more. Right. And so hanging on to bad, or just, bad's always a tough word, because sometimes it's just a mismatch, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're not a bad person, but maybe just what their expectations are totally wrong based on your services. We're a marketing agency. And so for us, we have that all the time. It's like, you hired us to do X and Y. You're mad about Q and R. That's not our responsibility. It's like, well, but you should have seen it, or you should have known. It's like, okay, this is an internal thing. This isn't something you need to be pushing on us. Like, and so what I found is like, that might be, if that's what you're needing, then our scope and the contract you signed isn't the right agreement that you need. And that one person that I used to hold on to so much, it's like, man, if I take that energy that my entire team is spending on that and put it into like just finding another client, or just even simply getting it back, then it's weird how like the universe conspires, right? And you end up growing. But it took a long time for me to get to that point where I could say, I think it's that scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset, right? There is no shortage of people that need t-shirts, right? And so there's no shortage of businesses that need marketing. And so there's just always an abundance of opportunity out there. How do you handle competition? Do you see it as a threat, or do you see it as just more people in the industry?
No, just more people in the industry. And that goes, we host sales and marketing events for other people in the industry. We go to the trade shows, and, I host educational things there as well. And so my idea is, the better we can make the industry and the more educated we can make the industry, the better like we all look and we can all do together. There's plenty of business out there for everyone. So I don't really look at anybody as competition. We're all, working to serve our clients the best that we can. And the more I can help everyone else in the industry and we can all help each other out, like just the easier business gets.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've seen that you do, you train potential competitors to how to run better business. And I think there is an absolute truth that as all of us in an industry get better, it makes it easier to serve our clients, and it makes it easier to provide a higher quality because people are not upset at each other, right? It's never, just like it's sometimes you have to fire a client. It's really hard to have a client come on board that just had a really bad experience somewhere else because they bring their like PTSD over to you. So, all right, let's talk a little bit more about some of those really cool, extreme, like big marketing things you've done in your journey. Tell us a little bit about, like, you do something you call like newsjacking. Tell us a little bit about what that is and some of the things you've done there.
Yeah, so I love anytime I can get free publicity, it's great. And so I always look at, ways that I can get featured in the newspaper, get on a news station, like whatever it is. So I'm always looking for that hook or that angle that, is going to get some attention, going to get some eyeballs, and the press is going to want to pick up and really run with it. And in turn, like it's free advertising, free exposure. Like you can't pay for front page advertising on, the Wall Street Journal or New York Times or Chicago Tribune and stuff like that. But you can get on the front page and advertise your business by having something interesting to talk about, by having something crazy that's different than any other news story out there. So, it's in part of like get that, but then also just have like something fun to talk about. A lot of times the news station's always like, you see negative stuff a lot of times. It's like, all right, let's give them something fun and even the readers and viewers something fun and memorable to read about instead of, all the negativity that's happening in the world.
Give us a real example. What's one that you've done in the last few years?
All right. So one of them was the Pope bracket. And we did that during March Madness. So, and when the Pope resigned, they were trying to pick a new Pope. And so you've got all the cardinals throughout the world. And then you've got the media, on March Madness as well. So we took all the cardinals and we put them into brackets, basically like March Madness brackets. We put odds with them and we were like, all right, fill out your bracket. Instead of an NCAA team, it was like, fill out your bracket of who you think is going to be the next Pope. And that caught a lot of wildfire because it was different. Like it took two trending topics. We mashed them up together and, it created this kind of like headline where it was like, wow, this is different. This is unique. And, it got a lot of attention. Another one was when we've got the polar vortex blowing through the Midwest and the temperatures are like negative 50 degrees, right? Like people are trying to, freeze cups of water. They're throwing in the air and turning to snow before it touches the ground. People are doing like screenshots of their phone or their car dashboard where it's saying negative 50 because it's just so crazy to see that number. And so I decided like, hey, let's just see like how long it would take to freeze a t-shirt outside. So I took a t-shirt outside, got it wet, and it froze in under a minute. And it kind of like took on the shape of a mannequin. So it was kind of cool to see. And then I brought it inside. I didn't know this was going to happen, but it had like a little hole in it from where one of the seams was. And literally I ripped the t-shirt in half like a piece of paper. And so it was just like something different and odd. And it was like, wow, that, got people thinking. And that video went viral, got picked up by all the major news stations, actually on a worldwide scale. Got licensed out to science show and stuff like that. So I was getting licensing royalties from it.
Wow.
And just got a ton of exposure. And it was something that was fun and really, I just came up with kind of on a whim.
So, but you do these really neat things, but you actually get the exposure. So is there something that you do once you get a video like that to help make sure it gets in the right hands?
First, you want to like, when I put it out there and it starts getting some traction, then, I'll send it on some direct messages or emails or whatever to other media outlets to say, hey, check this out. It's got social proof now because it's getting a ton of shares or a ton of comments or whatever else. And then that kind of like validates the idea of like, oh yeah, we need to get on this because we don't want to miss out on it. Right.
Yep.
So then they're going to post or share, or they want to do an interview. And so then like once you start doing that, and then it's like, oh, we were in this paper, and on this channel, they're like, oh, we need to get on it. And once you start getting a number of outlets to pick up on it, then hopefully the AP picks up on it. When the AP picks up on it, then it gets mass distributed kind of all over the place. And so that's kind of the goal with that. But then it's also capturing the journeys, not just that getting featured in the paper or getting featured on the news. It's taking pictures of the cameraman when they're there and the behind the scenes of, the news truck in front of your building, and getting like that pre-media publicity and then posting that as well. So like the anticipation builds up, and you start getting a lot of comments and mentions of that. And then you actually have the media event where, it's in that paper on that Friday, or it's on the Friday night news. Well, if somebody was busy or out of town that day, they missed it. So you've got to keep posting even after it. So you follow up, you post screenshots, you do a follow-up thing, you get the paper printed out, you hang it on the wall at the office, stuff like that. So there's like the pre-media, there's the actual when you're getting in the media, and then there's the post-media events. And when you tie them all together, it creates just kind of a full campaign for it. You can go beyond that. If you've got physical products or you're mailing stuff out, you can print a copy of it off and include it with all the products you ship out. That way your customers are seeing that with the product, kind of reinforces that,
Yep.
you're a great business to order from, and kind of tells the story and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do with it beyond just getting featured in the paper or being featured on a news station.
I love that the idea went from like, yeah, you just do this, you just kind of look for trending topics or do fun things, to, I have a full system, and here's what you do before, here's what you do during, and here's what you do after. And I love that about you, because you're always so understated. You're very strategic, but it's like, yeah, you just kind of do it. And then it's like, no, but here's the super detailed system. All right, we're coming up to the end of the show. The final question is always, and you do this better than most people, right? But business to me is about creating a lifestyle that you actually want. What is one major item on your personal bucket list you're going to accomplish in the next 12 months?
Taking Fridays off during the summer to spend with my kids. So they're 3 and 5 right now. And so when they're off school during the summer, every Friday is at home with them.
I love that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio with Tom Rauen, and go check him out at 1-800tshirts.com. You can also find him on social media. What's your Instagram, Tom?
Tom Rauen 24/7.
That's a hard one to find. You can find him. Everyone, to my Biz Ninjas, wherever you're listening, it's your turn to go out and do something.